Back at the end of August, I told my husband I needed to get some spinach. And so we went to Lebanon, PA, which isn't too far from our home, to get some spinach at Lowe's. The time goes by so fast, it seems like yesterday we made this trip as they were harvesting the corn. And we went and got some seeds. Lots of times the seeds are on sale in September and August and, of course, in October. But I wanted to get these spinach seeds planted in time for now, in October. It's hard to believe we're in October already. It just seems like yesterday that it was the beginning of summer. I don't know about you, but the older I get, the quicker time goes by. Right after getting all of the spinach seeds, I went and planted it in my planter. I gave a good watering and I hoped that they would grow. When you think about homesteading and gardening, you have to think ahead of time to make sure you get everything done in time for harvest. I think about the pioneers and how they only had what they grew. A bad year meant very little food or variety of food. It humbles me to think how it was like back in the 1800s. With the extreme lack of rain this summer, my flowers didn't do too well. And now all of a sudden in October, things are blooming and blossoming, and it looks better now than it's ever looked. It's been a strange summer. I wonder what the winter will be like. We had slugs and rabbits and deer just eating everything that we had, and now it looks so beautiful. It looks like what summer should have looked like. I'm harvesting the last of my cherry tomatoes, harvesting the last of my basil, harvesting the last of everything. But it is so much fun to be out in a nice cool weather. We had such a hot summer. It wasn't very enjoyable. Even in the evening, it was just so hot to be outside. Today we're going to be making some oven roasted tomatoes. They were absolutely so delicious, and it's so easy to make. I'm cutting up these tomatoes in half. Then we're going to go and add some fresh basil, some onions, some thyme, and some olive oil, and slowly roast it in the oven for about an hour and a half. And the longer they roasted, the better they tasted. It was such a pleasurable morning for me to be able to be out and just enjoy nature. I'm amazed how plain food tastes so good to me now. It's almost as if my taste buds came alive. Since my body isn't used to so many preservatives, I'm realizing that the powerful taste of basil and onions and sea salt and olive oil, it just tastes so amazing. When I put these into the oven, what happened was the basil got crunchy on top, and it was absolutely delicious. I could have sat and ate this whole tray of tomatoes. I thought I would add some microgreens. I never knew if I could blanch them and freeze them, but I added some of the turnip leaves and all of the other leaves just to see how well it would taste. And now I'm just going to head and adding some water on the stove, and then we are going to have boiling water, and we're going to blanch the spinach. I read that blanching the spinach keeps it nice and green, and that way when you freeze it, it's beautiful and it's green. So I decided to blanch it. reading lots of books about the pioneers and how they lived on the prairie and how they didn't waste anything has been really life transforming to me. I took a deep look to see all of the things that I do and how much I was being wasteful. I couldn't believe how much more I have by not wasting anything. The tomatoes were finished, and I'm going to go ahead and put them in the freezer. I'm using a very old-fashioned way of freezing food, and I can't wait to show you what that is. What I did is I got out the old-fashioned freezer boxes, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Back in the 1950s, the 60s, the 70s, I remember my grandma using these boxes, and I had a lot of them. They might not be the most environmentally friendly, but it's boxes that I had, and they are so charming, and I like using the old ways. They're wax boxes, and I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. You can buy them vintage on eBay, but they're so much fun to use. It just transforms me back into a time with my grandma. I'm a peculiar type of person. Some people would say I'm eccentric, but the older I get, the more I want to step back in time in the memories of my childhood. And so using these boxes brings back so many memories to me. And it makes me feel at peace. I know that times are modern, and I know that we always need to look ahead. But you know what? Looking back isn't so bad if it's happy times. And boy, this brings back happy times in my life. So these are the freezer boxes. And yes, they take a little bit more room in the freezer, but it's so much fun. Now we're just going to go ahead and do the same thing to the spinach. We're going to box everything up, put it in the freezer, and this will make such lovely soups and stews. We eat spinach almost every day in some type of meal, fresh or blanched. We use it in replace of lettuce. We had a couple pieces of bread. I mean, come on, what's a couple pieces of bread? Just throw it away. But it made so many amazing breadcrumbs with just a couple pieces of bread that were really stale, way past their prime. So I decided to make some breadcrumbs with them. A little bit of Parmesan cheese that needs to get used up, and it turned the breadcrumbs into something delicious. I took some chicken out of the freezer and I had it thawed out, and now we're just dipping it into some ranch dressing and some of the breadcrumbs. I took about half the breadcrumbs and put them in the freezer because it had Parmesan cheese on it. I wanted to make sure that I put it back in the freezer. And with the little bit that I had left, well, we're making chicken fingers. Now these will be for a meal when our children come this week. But I felt really good in the kitchen today. We used up spinach and tomatoes and old bread. It's like the Great Depression. Back in the Great Depression, people didn't waste anything either. It seems like we go through spells of plenty, and people don't worry about having excess. They don't worry about saving everything. And then we go to times of great need, where all of a sudden we're transformed back into saving everything that we have. I know those that lived through the Great Depression, they kept that in their minds and hearts and souls, I think, the rest of their life. I don't think many of them went back to being wasteful. When you have lessons like that, they're hard to forget. I even saved these amazing trays that the chicken was on. I just washed the trays really good, put the chicken back on it. It's going back in the freezer, and now I didn't waste anything. I cleaned out the refrigerator and I found a few things, and I thought, you know what? We'll make wraps with them. This tomato and basil wrap is absolutely amazing. It tasted so good, and I only needed half of it for lunch. So this was our lunch. I made one for my husband and for me, I ate half of it for lunch and then the other half for supper. Thank you so much for watching. If you love the Great Depression videos that I like to make, check out the playlist that I have. It will be in the description box below. See you guys again tomorrow.